Remember how in the 80s and 90s, the government was all pissed about metal and rock bands and trying to censor and ban all their music and stuff? Well, here we are at the end of 2023 and the US government is mad again, but this time it's not the music. It's about money. Show me the money! What else, right? So I don't know if you guys read this article yet, but every year, a senator from Kentucky, Rand Paul, he comes out with a Festivus report where he just complains about wasteful government spending. And it is kind of funny. I actually love the name because Festivus, the made-up holiday of Frank Costanza on Seinfeld, has the airing of grievances.
I got a lot of problems with you people. Now you're going to hear about it.
And that's basically what this report is him just complaining about everything. And that's kind of Rand Paul's thing. He is a Republican. He considers himself constitutionally conservative. But he does complain a lot about financial spending from the government. And since we're on the topic of money, let's just take the next minute or two to talk about the sponsor of today's video, Rocket Money. I used to be horrible at managing my finances. I was not saving enough. I was spending too much. And the biggest thing for me was monthly subscriptions that I would forget about. And then I'm getting charged over and over and over and just basically losing money. But that is where Rocket Money came in to help. Rocket Money is an all-in-one personal finance app that lets you lower your bills, cancel subscriptions, manage your money better, and a lot more. I've actually been using Rocket Money way before I did this video. I use it to see all my upcoming payments on things, recurring payments, how much I'm spending. And then if you want to do a bunch of adulting stuff too, you can throw in your mortgages and keep track of your credit score. It's fantastic. When I first started using their app, I realized that I was paying for so much I didn't want and duplicates of certain streaming platforms because Rocket Money can identify recurring payments and allow you to cancel them from directly in their app. At the click of a button, you can cancel all the unwanted monthly subscriptions you have and don't even need to deal with customer service from that specific company. But one of the biggest things that I take advantage of is lowering my bills. Yeah, they can help lower your bills for you. Just by uploading a PDF of your bill, clicking a few buttons, Rocket Money will actually negotiate with companies to lower your bills for you. I'm talking things like phone bills, cable, internet, all of that. It's super quick, it's super easy, and you don't even have to worry about doing anything. So if you want to save more and spend less, get started today for free by going to the link in the description of this video and join the over 5 million other members that are already managing their money with Rocket Money. Once again, that's rocketmoney.com/TankTheTech to get started today for free. So thank you to everybody that took the time to watch this. Thank you so very much to Rocket Money for sponsoring this video. And now, back to talking about people mismanaging their money. But we're not here to talk about actual politics. We're here to talk about why he and other people are mad at these bans. And the reason they're mad is because over the pandemic, the US government handed out small business loans called PPP loans. And I don't know if other countries did this or the system that they did, but here in the US, anything that was considered a small business could get one of these loans. And if you're not familiar with what this loan is, I just want to read a couple things real quick before we dive in. The Paycheck Protection Program provides small businesses with funds to pay up to 8 weeks of payroll costs, including benefits. Funds can also be used to pay interest on mortgages, rent, and utilities. Funds are provided in the form of loans that will be fully forgiven when used for payroll costs, interest on mortgages, rent, and utilities. But due to the likely high subscription, at least 75% of the forgiven amount must have been used for payroll. Loan payments will also be deferred for 6 months. No collateral or personal guarantees are required. Neither the government nor lenders will charge small businesses any fees. Forgiveness is based on the employer maintaining or quickly rehiring employees and maintaining salary levels. Forgiveness will be reduced if full-time headcount declines or if salaries and wages decrease. Small businesses with 500 or fewer employees, including nonprofits, veterans organizations, tribal concerns, self-employed individuals, sole proprietorships, and independent contractors are eligible. Businesses with more than 500 employees are eligible in certain industries. So these are the major small points of this. And the big thing here to keep in mind is that they said loans are forgiven if at least 75% of the amount was used on payroll, but it also says that the employers need to maintain their employees, or quickly rehire and maintain those specific salary levels. And the forgiveness will be reduced if they cut the head count or the salaries. So in essence, this whole thing was for small businesses to basically be able to keep paying their employees in full for the 8 weeks, which they originally thought would be the pandemic and stuff like that. So per Rand Paul's official website, the whole Festivus report aimed to alert the American people to how their federal government uses their hard-earned money. According to this analysis, artists such as Slipknot, Korn, Nickelback, and the Smashing Pumpkins played a part in the $900 billion in government waste. Near the end of the lengthy document, Paul talks about how the U.S. Small Business Administration was responsible for distributing financial relief when local concert venues and family-owned theaters were forced to shut down during the pandemic. In particular, the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant Program was supposed to provide a lifeline to small entertainment businesses nationwide. The report itself says, sadly but not surprisingly, the Small Business Association failed to deliver. Business Insider identified dozens of famous music artists and their touring companies that received over $200 million through the program. So-called small business owners such as Post Malone, Lil Wayne, Chris Brown, the really good dancer, R&B pop singer that beats women, not Chris Brown, the singer for Trapped, and Smashing Pumpkins received up to $10 million each. Even Nickelback received $2 million. While some may claim these funds were used to keep supporting staff, artists were not required to do so, and we have no way of determining how these blank checks were used. These multi-millionaire musicians were cashing checks instead of the intended recipients, America's small businesses. Now, they did mention on here, Korn got $5.3 million from this. Slipknot got $9.7 million. Vampire Weekend, $8.3 million. And Knotfest, Slipknot's festival, got an extra $1 million as well. It also notes that Vampire Weekend's management received a grant for $3 million. And that's an interesting thing to bring up. From some of the stuff that I saw from other sources, like for example, Post Malone got a $10 million PPP loan for the pandemic. His management also got a $10 million PPP loan. And then his booking agency got like $3 or $4 million too. The way it's worded, I know a lot, it's to fire a lot of people up like, oh, Post Malone's manager got $10 million. It's a management firm. There are tons of employees there. Now, the big thing that was brought up is, how was this money used? They're accusing these bands basically of not using the money correctly and keeping it for themselves. But even by Rand's own admission in his report, they have no way to know how the money was used. So some of these bands could have very well used it to pay their employees, their road crew, their managers, whatever. They probably did use a lot of that money. I find it hard to believe that every single one of these acts just took money from the government and pocketed it without paying anybody, but it happened. We know it happened. Me and my other friends in the music industry know that there were instances of that happening because we fucking saw it happening, dude, in real time. It was crazy. Penumbra just said that's BS. You had to list your expenses on your loan forgiveness applications. Is there proof of it? And what I mean by proof of it is, did they actually have to submit payroll? Could they just be like, yeah, we used X amount to pay our employees? Because the thing about this PPP stuff is it is public information. You can look this up. The problem is, a lot of these bands and artists are registered under business names and entities that aren't their own names. So unless you know the business entity's name of these bands, we couldn't just pop in right now and like search Slipknot. It won't come up. It's whatever their business name is under. And because they are under a business name, they being bands and artists, because they are under a business name, they themselves count as employees. So what would be stopping an artist or a band from getting a PPP loan and then having their business pay them, the artist, 90% of the money they got, and then 10% to everybody else, and then saying, yes, 100% of it was used for payroll? It's what a lot of people do in the roadie industry with businesses. People create themselves LLCs. Like, I don't do this. I've thought about it. It just seems like way too much legal paperwork and stuff, and I'm lazy. I know people that tour, and when they get paid by bands, their LLC pays them, and then they pay themselves from their LLC. And then you're eligible for like tax business loopholes and write-offs and stuff like that. So that's how this works for a lot of these bands too. They're registered under different business entities. Raygor just said Rand Paul is making accusations with zero proof of wrongdoing. He's literally just causing trouble to get his name out there. I'm not going to disagree with that because, as I said, his own admission, they literally have no proof. And let's be fucking honest here. This is the pot calling the kettle black, dude. You know how many politicians and celebrities and other people got tons of money from the government during the pandemic while the lower and middle class just got like what, $1,000 or something? Like tons of these super rich people got millions of dollars. And then normal people, like lower middle class working people, what did we get? Like a check for like, I don't know, it was a couple $1,000s or something once from the government to help us get by. So yeah, this system, like, where's my tinfoil hat? The entire system is rigged to benefit the upper class. But we all knew that. But anyways, before this devolves into an entire thing that I don't want to get into because I don't want to talk about politics and stuff like that, I do want to talk about this specific situation because earlier, a few minutes ago, I said we saw it happen. You guys know I was super deep into the country music industry around the time of the pandemic. And we're all very tight-knit in Nashville. We all know each other. We all see each other at festivals. We see each other at rehearsal spaces in Nashville. When the pandemic happened, a few things happened in different scenarios for different people. One, everybody got let go immediately. There were a lot of camps in Nashville where they just got let go immediately because their artists were like, dude, we can't pay everybody. Two, you were just kept on full time, which that would be a amazing scenario. Like that's if you're working for a huge artist with money. There are a lot of artists in this town that fully paid their employees over the entire pandemic, which is amazing. Those people are awesome. And then other situations where you pretty much got paid as long as your artist could afford to pay you before they realized I can't keep this up anymore. Because again, to remind everybody, when the COVID lockdown first happened, they told us, like touring roadies, like we were going to be off the road for like a month or two. They didn't know it was going to be like a year of not doing shows. So there were a lot of artists that tried to pay us as long as they could. The artist I was working for was one of them. He didn't take us off salary until like he absolutely could not afford to pay anybody anymore. And I'm very grateful for that. I will never talk shit about that. But I do have a lot of friends in the music industry who are working for artists that got booted off of payroll. Like they got fired because they were told they couldn't be paid. And you know what? I think if that happened to me, I wouldn't have argued because bands have to tour to make money basically. And if you're not touring, there's no money. But here's the thing. I have many close friends who worked for artists that we have looked this up. They fired everybody right when the COVID lockdown happened. They got tons of money in PPP loans. They never got rehired. And then you see the Instagram accounts of some of these artists. And during the pandemic, during the COVID lockdown, they're just partying. They're flying to Hawaii. They're flying to, or not Hawaii, but like other countries that weren't locked down. They're throwing house parties. They're just living life, dude. But when you cut your entire crew because you don't have money, and then these PPP loans come out and you're supposed to use it on payroll, but you don't rehire anybody and you don't pay anybody, but you're on social media partying your absolute ass off, something's up there. And there are multiple instances of this happening in the Nashville community. Like, we know what bands they were. We know what artists they were. As Dr. Cupcake in chat just said, I don't care what they do with their money, but it was not their money. Precisely. I don't care what anybody does with their money. Whatever. You'll never see me shame anybody for buying something weird or anything like that. I don't care. It's your money. But when you get money from the government that's supposed to go to paying your staff, your touring road crew, and you didn't, and you're out just partying your face off, it's super obvious that you got a huge PPP loan and didn't use it the way it was supposed to. And then it got forgiven at the end of it because you reported that you paid it. Metal Neighbor just said, as with most things, it is how the funds are used. There will be abuses. And the question becomes, are they held to account for the abuse? Government funds can be a lifeline. And sometimes these abuses ruin it for everybody. The system absolutely gets abused by all of the people that know how to abuse it. We're talking like the millionaires and billionaires. We're talking artists. We're talking business owners, politicians, like people that know how to scam the system will scam the system. While there probably were some bands that did take advantage of this and some artists that did take advantage advantage of this? Not all of them did, because I know they didn't, because I have friends on some of these crews that were paid over the pandemic that were taken care of. So throwing all these accusations out there is one thing. It's kind of interesting that he's specifically going at the music industry. But again, there are so many people that took advantage of this stuff. Like, why are we aiming directly at the music industry with this? Like, I'm kind of curious where that's coming from. To be fair, I haven't read the whole report, so I don't know. He could be calling out a lot more, but I just thought that was kind of interesting that this one, like 2 years after the fact, after all of these loans have already been forgiven by the government to all of these PPP loans for the artists, like, he's bringing it up now. I don't get it. Could be like Rhaegar said. Could be him just trying to be relevant and get his name out there. Tribal Smoke said, it sounds like a lot when you don't break it down and think about it. Well, let's break it down really quick. So the tour that I was on when the pandemic happened had about 17 people. I actually can't remember exactly what I was making per week when I was out there. But let's just say everybody out there made an average of $2,000 per week. Let's just throwing the number out there. That's $34,000 a week in salary for band members and crew members that were on tour at the time. That's $136,000 per month. That's $1,632,000 per year. So you can see that if these artists use this money appropriately, it definitely helped. And you got to think about the arena and stadium sized crews that have people that are employed full time too. Like, if this money was used correctly, absolutely helped. And there was no like fudging of the numbers and lying about it like Rand Paul said. Ninja just said dumbasses in Congress all got PPP loans for no reason. They have no reason to complain. That's, dude, same thing. That's what I said earlier. The pot calling the kettle black, dude. Everybody abused this system during the pandemic. I'm not saying it's right by any means, but specifically targeting bands and artists and calling them out for it is interesting because every other one of these big businesses did it too. And a lot of times these politicians with businesses did it too. But listen, again, I don't like to dive into politics here. That's not what we're here for. It involved the music industry and that's what we're talking about. This is all just food for thought. Thinking about, did this really happen? Because again, no proof, but I know instances where it did. I don't think it was the vast majority of bands and artists. I mean, you got to think. They called out Post Malone. Post Malone has a huge operation, dude. Slipknot has a huge operation. We saw with just a crew of 17 people on payroll how much money that is. Imagine a crew like Slipknot or Post Malone or all those employees. Like, that's a lot of money, dude. But anyways, before this devolves and descends into a full-on political argument, which again, I know I say it's not, but it's kind of hard to avoid it with this specific topic. I'm curious to know what people that watch this later on YouTube think. Do you think this was abused as bad as Rand is saying it was by the music industry? Or do you think this is him just trying to get people talking about him? But guys in chat, and girls in chat, and whoever in chat, everyone in chat, thank you so much for being here for this. And thank you for keeping it pretty tame. I love this community. I know a lot of other Twitch people that could start bringing up government stuff and people would go absolutely ape shit. Thank you again. If you're watching on YouTube later and you want to join us on Twitch for these conversations, you can go to twitch.tv/TankTheTech. Also on a ton of different social media, @TankTheTech is my handle on just about everything. But until next time, wherever you are in the world, be safe, be kind to each other. I love you all, and I will be back again with another video.